You are 28 years old. You have $42,000 saved. You earn $74,000 a year. And for the past 3 years, you have been renting the same apartment for $1,340 a month. That adds up to $48,240 paid to your landlord. Money someone at a family dinner will gladly remind you that you'll never see again. But here is what they didn't tell you. The idea that renting is just throwing money away is one of the most confidently repeated pieces of financial folklore, and it almost never survives contact with the actual numbers. So today, let's run the real math behind renting versus buying. Imagine you have two positions in front of you. Not a one-time decision, but a stance on how you live, where you put your capital, and what you are optimizing for. Let's start with position 1. You buy. It's March, and mortgage rates are sitting at 6.8%. You find a 3-bedroom home in an up-and-coming suburb listed at $385,000. You put 10% down, which is $38,500, because saving for 20% would take another 2 years. On the remaining $346,500, your monthly mortgage payment lands at $2,257. Then add property taxes at the national average of 1.1%, about $353 a month. Add homeowners insurance at $142. Add PMI at $245 a month, which sticks around for about 8 years until you reach 20% equity. So before a single thing breaks, you are now spending $2,997 a month. Remember, you were paying $1,340. Now, the argument you've heard is that this difference builds equity. That's partly true, and it's worth understanding precisely. Of your first $2,257 payment, $1,962 goes to interest. Only $295 goes to principal. So in month 1, you build $295 in equity, while the bank collects $1,962. By year 5, you're building roughly $380 in equity per payment. This is not what most people picture when they imagine building something. Now let's talk about the house itself. The Case-Shiller Home Price Index shows US home prices have appreciated about 4.6% per year over the past 30 years. That's roughly 1.5% above inflation in real terms. That sounds solid, until you subtract what you paid to generate it. Maintenance alone averages 1% to 2% of the home's value every year. On a $385,000 home, that's $3,850 to $7,700 annually. And that money doesn't build equity, it just maintains it. The roof you replace in year 11 costs $14,000. The HVAC system in year 7 costs $8,500. Then there's the water heater, the windows, the driveway. These aren't surprises. They are the operating costs of the asset, and they rarely appear in the spreadsheet people show you. Now, when you sell in year 7, because the average American moves every 8 years, you pay an agent 5% to 6% of the sale price. On a home worth $533,000 after appreciation, that's $29,000 to $32,000 in commissions alone. That value is returned to zero on exit. None of this means buying is wrong. It means buying is expensive in ways the cultural narrative quietly ignores. And what buying does give you is real too. Stability, the right to paint the walls and put down roots, a forced savings mechanism, which most people genuinely need, a hedge against rising rents because your mortgage payment is fixed, and in high appreciation markets, real wealth creation through leverage on a rising asset. The psychological value of ownership is not nothing. For many people, it is the primary reason to buy, and that is legitimate. Now, let's look at position 2. You rent, you take that same $38,500, but instead of a down payment, you put $35,000 into a low-cost total market index fund and keep $3,500 liquid. You stay in your apartment at $1,340 a month, and you invest the $1,657 monthly difference between owning and renting. This is the calculation most people never run. The rent versus buy comparison almost always fails to account for the capital you didn't lock into a down payment or the monthly difference you could be investing. When you account for both, renting frequently outperforms buying over 5 to 7 year horizons in high-cost cities. A 2023 analysis by Florida Atlantic University found something striking. In 45 of the 50 largest US metros, it was cheaper to rent than to own the equivalent home. The extra cost of owning averaged $839 a month nationwide. So when does buying always wins actually hold true? Only under a specific set of conditions. Long-time horizons, stable locations, low interest rates, and people who otherwise wouldn't save the difference. Remove any one of those, and the math changes substantially. So let's run your numbers. Investing $1,657 a month at a historical 10% average annual return produces $196,000 in 7 years. Your initial $35,000 compounds to $68,000. That gives you $264,000 in liquid, accessible assets. Meanwhile, the homeowner across the street has roughly $74,000 in equity. That's what's left, after selling costs, maintenance, and a front-loaded amortization schedule, plus a house they still need to sell into whatever market exists in year 7. Of course, renting has real downsides. No leverage on an appreciating asset, no fixed housing cost in an inflationary environment, and not the deep stability that matters so much to families and communities. It also won't let you remodel your kitchen, which is not trivial to the people who care about it. So what do the numbers actually say? The New York Times rent versus buy calculator does the full accounting. It includes opportunity costs, tax deductions, transaction costs, and appreciation. And it reveals a break-even point that varies enormously by market. In Austin, you'd need to stay 11 years before buying beats renting. In Cleveland, it's just 2 years. The national average is around 5 to 6 years. But that average hides a distribution that makes the headline nearly meaningless for any individual decision. And here's a detail that surprises people. The mortgage interest deduction benefits far fewer people than it used to. Since the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act raised the standard deduction to $29,200 for married couples in 2024, roughly 90% of taxpayers no longer itemize, which means about 90% of homeowners get no meaningful tax benefit from their mortgage interest. The deduction that anchored a generation's case for buying has quietly become irrelevant for most people still citing it. So this brings us to the real question. The honest version of this decision isn't which option makes me richer. It comes down to 3 questions that require honest answers. First, how long are you staying? If the answer is less than 5 years, the transaction costs of buying make ownership a losing proposition in nearly every market. Closing costs run 2% to 5% on entry, and commissions take 5% to 6% on exit. The cultural instinct to buy simply isn't calibrated to how much we move today. Second, where are you buying? Location decides everything, from appreciation rates to that break-even point. And third, will you actually invest the difference? Because if you won't, the forced savings of a mortgage may be the smarter path for you. So in the end, there is no universal answer. The optimal choice depends on your time horizon, your location, and your personal financial discipline. Buying is not a default win, and renting is not throwing money away. It's a financial decision. So run your own numbers and make it on purpose.